Have you ever seen strength hidden inside someone who never speaks about their pain? Have you ever watched a small light refuse to go out, even in the darkest storm? Before we begin, take a slow breath and let this story settle gently in your heart. In a quiet town, there once lived a little girl named Areeba. She was only 8 years old when her world changed forever. Her father passed away suddenly. One day he was there, laughing, lifting her in his arms. The next day, as the house felt unbearably silent, relatives came, voices filled the rooms, promises were made. But when the days of mourning ended, everyone slowly returned to their own lives. Doors closed, footsteps faded, and inside that small house remained only two souls, a mother and her daughter. Areeba did not fully understand death, but she understood absence. She noticed her mother staring at the door sometimes, as if expecting it to open again. Money began to run out, as bills gathered like quiet threats on the table. Her mother, Sarah, had never worked outside the home. She had always cared for her family, cooking warm meals, baking simple cakes for birthdays, stitching clothes with love. Now she had to become both mother and father. One night, after Areeba had fallen asleep, Sarah sat alone in the kitchen. She looked at the old oven in the corner. It wasn't new. It wasn't perfect. But it worked. The next morning, she made a decision. Thought if life had taken something from her, she would build something in return. She started small, very small. She baked 3 simple cakes, vanilla, chocolate, and marble. She packed them neatly in transparent boxes and walked to nearby houses, offering them with a humble smile. Some people bought out of sympathy. Some politely refused. Some said, "We will see next time." But Sarah did not stop. Every evening, Areeba would sit on the kitchen counter and watching her mother mix flour and sugar with quiet determination. "Ami, will people buy our cakes?" she once asked softly. Her mother smiled, though her hands were tired. "They will," she said, "because we will make them with honesty." Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Slowly, something beautiful began to happen. One customer returned and said, "The cake was soft. Make one for my son's birthday." Another recommended her to a neighbor. Then someone placed a larger order. Then the small kitchen that once felt heavy with silence began to fill with the warm smell of fresh bread and hope. Areeba grew up beside that oven. She did her homework at the dining table while her mother baked late into the night. She learned measurements before she learned algebra. She learned patience before she learned ambition. And most importantly, she learned resilience without anyone teaching it directly. There were difficult days, too. Days when orders were canceled. The days when ingredients became expensive. Days when her mother's hands trembled from exhaustion. But every time life pushed them down, they stood back up, quietly, not with anger, not with complaints, but with effort. Years passed. The little girl who once stood on a stool to reach the counter grew taller, stronger, wiser. By the time Areeba turned 20, the small home bakery had become known across the town. People didn't just buy cakes. They bought trust. They bought memories. Oh, they bought warmth. Sarah's hair had begun to turn gray. Her back hurt more often. Her steps were slower now. One evening, while closing the bakery, Areeba noticed her mother sitting down longer than usual. "Ami," she said gently, "you should rest." Sarah smiled. "I will," she replied. "One day. This will all be yours." Areeba looked around the kitchen. The same walls that had once witnessed tears now held framed photos of satisfied customers and celebration moments. Plus, she realized something deep within her heart. This was never just a bakery. It was survival. It was sacrifice. It was love baked into every layer. The next year, Areeba made a bold decision. She expanded the business. She created a small brand name inspired by her father's memory. She opened social media pages. She introduced custom designs, new flavors, and online orders. But she kept one rule unchanged: quality first, honesty always. The business began to grow beyond the neighborhood. Orders came from other parts of the city. What started with 3 simple cakes now supported not just 2 people, but several employees. One evening, as the sun set through the kitchen window, Areeba brought her mother a cup of tea. "You carried this family when I was too small to understand," she said softly. "Now, let me carry you." Syra's eyes filled with quiet tears, not of sadness, but of fulfillment. The little girl who once needed protection had become strength itself, and the oven that once felt like a desperate attempt to survive had become a symbol of dignity. In that small town, people often spoke about the successful bakery run by a mother and daughter. But what they didn't always see was the story behind it. The nights of fear, the courage to begin without certainty, the decision to move forward even when alone. Success did not arrive loudly for them. It grew slowly, like dough rising in silence. And their journey proved something powerful. Loss can break you, or it can build you. It depends on what you choose to create from it. Areeba did not inherit wealth. She inherited courage, and sometimes that is worth far more. So if life ever leaves you standing in an empty room, remember this story. Even from a small kitchen with tired hands and a heavy heart, you can build something beautiful. All it takes is the strength to begin.